Friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. The Mandalorian takes place in the outer edges of civilization, so we don't really get a chance to see what exactly is happening in the rest of the galaxy. I do hope we get to see the rest of the galaxy in the later episodes or maybe in the later seasons, because there are a lot of very important things going on in the rest of the galaxy. The mission to Arvala 7 takes place 9 ABY. The Empire carried out its last offensive against the New Republic in an all-out epic battle on Jakku around 5 ABY. Things were not going well for the Empire, and that was partly because Emperor Palpatine, the late Emperor Palpatine's agents, were purposely sabotaging the Imperial remnant war effort. Even though the good Emperor was dead, he left his very vindictive contingency orders behind, which basically directed a few trusted Imperial agents to destroy what remained of the Empire. Because if the Empire couldn't protect them, then it didn't deserve to exist anymore. Talk about scorched earth policy, right? Usually commanders do that when they're retreating. Who ever heard of someone destroying their own empire from the grave? While the Empire went down in flames amongst the tall desert dunes of Jakku, a small contingent of very capable Imperial officers chosen by Palpatine himself rendezvoused with the rest of the Imperial remnant in the unknown region. There they met up with one of the Empire's remaining super star destroyers, the Eclipse, which used to be the Emperor's personal flagship. All across the galaxy, the Emperor's Sentinel droids gave the coordinates of the Eclipse to Imperials that were deemed worthy of rebuilding a new empire. Once their numbers were gathered, they ventured further into the unknown region, where they faced all sorts of horrors like barbarian hordes, exotic alien technology, and of course wandering gravitational anomalies. It was an extremely difficult exile, and probably why they came out as such jerks when they emerged on the other side as the First Order. Chancellor Mon Mothma, who had been elected the head of the New Republic shortly after the Battle of Endor, had been given the same emergency powers that helped Palpatine take complete control over the government. She believed that a powerful executive position was poisonous to a democracy, and sought to quickly get rid of her emergency powers, along with disarming the New Republic Navy as quickly as possible. The journey ahead of her would be difficult. She still had many things to do. The Empire's entire logistics system was shut down, and now even basic needs were hard to come by in the New Republic. Everywhere else in the galaxy, the last remaining pockets of Imperial resistance collapsed. Most Imperials threw off their uniforms and joined the stream of refugees pouring corewards, trying to find their way home now that the war was over. The first major crisis that the New Republic government had to face was figuring out a way how to logistically manage all of these Imperials who had surrendered. The New Republic neither had the people or facilities to process all of these former Imperials. A few hardened pockets of Imperial fanatics, usually made up of stormtroopers, would carry out terrorist attacks on these facilities, creating even more confusion and fear. There was also the Vader-worshipping death cults like the Acolytes of the Beyond running around murdering people and attacking police stations. Instead of cracking down, though, Chancellor Mon Mothma courageously embraced these former Imperials. She knew there was no point in starting the mass incarceration of all these Imperials because it would just prolong the peace process. The Chancellor wanted to heal the wounds that the Galactic Civil War caused as soon as possible and find a way to reunite the galaxy under the New Republic and return things to normal. This meant pardoning most enlisted men and junior officers in the Imperial Navy and Army. Only high-ranking officers were put on trial for war crimes. It wasn't a perfect system, as individual Imperial governors and mobs in control of entire systems were oftentimes granted amnesty for giving up peacefully to the New Republic, despite the fact that they clearly committed crimes during the Galactic Civil War. Other Imperials like TK-603 or Terex escaped the Battle of Jakku and found a job in the underworld as an enforcer. Turns out that stormtroopers have skills that are sought after by criminal organizations. This is actually pretty common for ex-stormtroopers who were considered very fanatic and treated differently when they surrendered to the New Republic. Tarek would work his way up the ladder and eventually would start his own outfit, the Rank Gang. He utilized the discipline and leadership he had learned from being in the Empire to run the gang efficiently. The first capital of the New Republic was established on the world of Chandrila, Mon Mothma's home world, shortly after the Battle of Endor. Chandrila was located in the core of the galaxy, but it was no replacement for Coruscant. There were several reasons why Coruscant wasn't chosen. For one, the old capital was still partially occupied by Imperial forces and the puppet Imperial leader, Mas Amedda. Then there is the fact that Coruscant had become a symbol of Imperial tyranny as much as it was a symbol for the Galactic Republic. Just months before the Battle of Jakku erupted, Imperial envoys led by Grand Admiral Ray Sloan met Mon Mothma on Chandrila for peace talks. Unbeknownst to the Grand Admiral, agents of Palpatine's contingency were planning on using this meeting to carry out a terrorist attack against the New Republic High Command, and they nearly took out Chancellor Mon Mothma. The attack threw a wrench into the peace talks, and the New Republic moved their capital from Chandrila to the mid-rim world of Nakadia, an agricultural planet that was far less populated, therefore considered a safer location for an interim capital. A year later, in 6 ABY, Hosnian Prime was selected as the capital for the New Republic. The Galactic Concordance Treaty and the Disarmament Act had been passed, and now the galaxy was heading back towards peace. Mon Mothma would retire from her role as Chancellor as her health became an issue, and like when George Washington stepped down as the first President of the United States, the New Republic Senate fell into factionalism and separated into two groups, the populists and the centrists. Loosely framed, the populists were pro-planetary rights, while the centrists favored a strong central government. It was later revealed that a pro-imperial faction had developed within the centrists, and they were secretly helping out the First Order. With the threat of the Empire gone and Mon Mothma no longer there to provide strong leadership, the New Republic fell back into the habits that had doomed the Old Republic. Partisan fighting and bureaucratic gridlock made it impossible for the central government to do anything. Meanwhile, the New Republic military, which was already overwhelmed and stretched thin, had to follow a strict timeline for disarmament. The idea was for funding to be redirected from the federal military to planetary defense forces across the New Republic. Worlds that had once been kept safe and stable by Imperial garrisons were now set upon by bandits and pirates. The Outer Rim reverted to being a lawless wasteland, and in one sector, a band of pirates had even taken over a super star destroyer and now had established a pirate kingdom. Ryloth, bordering what used to be Hutt space, was being blockaded by Nikito crime cartels that had risen in the vacuum created by the demise of the Hutt clans. Things were generally a mess, and by 9 ABY, just 4 years after the collapse of the Empire, some people are already getting nostalgic about the Imperial days. By 7 ABY, a galaxy-wide disaster was averted when Lando Calrissian destroyed a machine known as the Phalanx Redux Transmitter. The transmitter could infect droids with a virus that could send it on an organic killing spree. A weird cult known as the Brotherhood of Wire and Bone had planned on killing all organics and then kind of meshing their body parts onto robots or something creepy like that. So we have a lot to thank Lando Calrissian for between this and his role in destroying the second Death Star. So when we inevitably find out about his completely inappropriate behavior towards female colleagues as the administrator of Cloud City, we also shouldn't forget about the 2 times he saved the galaxy from inappropriate behavior of psychopaths bent on killing us all. We should cancel his HoloNet show, but we should be cool with allowing him to make limited appearances in cantinas. By 8 ABY, Poe Dameron would have been around 6 years old and entering the cockpit of his mother Shara Bay's old RZ-1 A-Wing Interceptor. Shara Bay had been a lieutenant in the Rebel Alliance and managed to keep her old ship as a part of a retirement compensation package. The RZ-1 A-Wing was notoriously difficult to pilot, and many seasoned and experienced pilots couldn't even handle it. But 6-year-old Poe Dameron could, which kind of foreshadows just how great of a pilot he would become one day. Unfortunately, 2 years later, Poe Dameron's mom passes away unexpectedly. 11 ABY would be the year that Finn was born. Too young to remember the family that he was taken away from, FN-2187 was thrown into a very difficult and cruel First Order conditioning and training program that involved a lot of brainwashing. Finn excelled in everything he did though and consistently scored high marks. He even had a small group of friends who he would later go on to betray. But at his core, Finn had a moral compass that was stronger than most, and despite all of his training and conditioning, he always stayed true to himself. Meanwhile, in the unknown region, the First Order eventually makes contact with Supreme Leader Snoke. His navigators are able to help their fleet safely navigate the twisted hyperspace lanes of the region. Supreme Leader Snoke begins a massive rearmament program using resources dug up in the unknown region, and secret subsidiaries of large arms and vehicle manufacturing companies establish new outposts in the unknown region to serve the First Order, and also skirt the Galactic Concordance Treaty, which made it illegal to sell weapons to the Imperial Remnant. The First Order also built a massive network of shipyards, bases, research, and communication facilities in the unknown region. Meanwhile, individuals like CD-0922 or the Cardinal were just beginning to learn how to fire a blaster. Recruited from the battlefield of Jakku, Cardinal would be amongst the first batch of new First Order troopers. The First Order mainly focused on taking children from primitive and war-torn worlds and training them from a very young age to become loyal subjects of the First Order. Captain Phasma would be discovered by this program a decade later on another post-apocalyptic world. And when the leader of the Stormtrooper program, Brendel Hux, was murdered, Armitage Hux, his son, would take his place and increase the efficiency of this Stormtrooper program and indoctrination. So there you have it, guys. While the First Order are kind of stuck in the unknown region and just trying to survive, the Republic, or the New Republic, is trying to control the core and mid-rim of the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Mandalorian is probably somewhere out here in the Outer Rim, also just trying to avoid all this trouble. Hopefully we'll see a lot more lore that will kind of just fill in this period of time, because I think it is a very interesting time. It's always very interesting when you're transitioning from one government to another. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.